So let's talk about a few things. So first of all, the technology companies have been being asked for years to take down counter-extremism, terrorism-related material, starting back in 2013, 2014. And effectively, nothing got done until late 2017. And that happened in response to incredible pressure from the EU and growing pressure from Capitol Hill here in the US. So I reject this notion that the technology companies have been proactive, have always been eager to have this fight. They drag their feet with the extremism-related material in the same way that they drag their feet in the child exploitation. So there's a little revisionist history happening here. And let me be clear, I don't have an axe to grind. This has never been a business issue, never been a financial issue. This has always been about my belief that the technology companies are not doing as good of a job as I would like them to do, and that I think that they need to do. So nobody can deny, despite claims now that they were always supportive of the child pornography, is that they dragged their feet, in some cases for a decade, to do anything. So that has been a pattern of behavior that we have seen over and over again, not just in the beginning of the internet, but even until fairly recently. So I should preface this by saying, I don't know, because the companies won't reveal to us what the technology is that they're using. We hear statistics from them, but we actually don't have a lot of transparency. We don't have a lot of ways of understanding how much material is coming in and how much material is being really eliminated. I'm not sure I understand how the technology company can say they eliminate 98% of the material without knowing what the denominator is in that ratio. How do they know what they're missing? So I'll get back to that in a little bit. Okay, so in terms of, do they have the capability to do this? I believe that they do for the following reason. For many years, for far longer than we've been dealing with the child exploitation and the counter-extremism, the technology companies have had technology to find and remove copyright infringement materials. And the reason they have that is because they were getting sued and they had a financial interest in developing and deploying that technology. So I genuinely believe that they have the ability to do this.
Libraries all across the world promote information literacy, and that is a very core part of libraries' work. Similarly, National Library takes this duty very, very seriously. After all, we are knowledge and information professionals, and we want to make sure that consumers of information know what is right and what might be wrong and fake. In terms of this whole piece of work, we felt that we needed to demystify what it means to be information literate. Because the word information literacy is a very, very long phrase, and it can be extremely confusing to others. So we broke it down into 4 steps that can be taken, and they fall into the acronym OSHWA. So S stands for source, which means, is your source reliable? Is your source credible? How do you know? And then understand is understanding existing biases, whether something is a fact or an opinion. And then, is that all you want to take, or should you do deeper research? So research, R stands for research, which means go deeper, find out more, check other sources as well. And then the last is evaluate, critically evaluate what you have in front of you. This piece of work has been done for many years, but we've been intensifying it over the last six years. And certainly we started with schools, because schools are foundational. The students go to school, they are the future of Singapore. They also have a very natural platform to apply these skills, because they do have to turn in homework, they have to do thesis, they have to do writing. There's so many things that they can naturally practice these skills. We've been working so closely with the Ministry of Education to incorporate the SURE principles into the syllabuses, especially the social studies syllabus, and we continue to have very close partnership and conversations with the ministry. Then when we thought about this, we think that there is also a value proposition for bringing SURE into the workplace. After all, there is an argument to be made that workers in this information age must be more reliable. They must be seen as reliable and trusted sources of information when they present things at work. We are adopting the similar approach as we did with MOE, work with institutions who care about this and who think that it is very important to infuse these skills into the curriculum, into what they already offer to their community. Thinking about institutions like NTUC, People's Association, Civil Service College, as well as Skills Future Singapore, because these are institutions that care about learning and lifelong learning at that. And we feel that that's a very, very important component that must go into the whole lifelong learning landscape. And of course, with these 4 principles, can we just be confined to school and work? Surely these can be taken into the whole of life itself. Whenever we come across a newspaper article, an offer that seems too good to be true, a cure for cancer, these are things that are opportunities for us to say, hey, let's take a moment and think about what's the source and apply these very, very simple steps in order to give ourselves some time before we jump to conclusions.
My question is specific to Ms. Han, and you spoke earlier about freedom of expression and how in a case of incitement, and I believe it was a situation of, it is a very clear hate message which has a potential to, an incitement to violence, I believe that was the statement. Now, in that sort of context, and would you countenance, let's say, take down mechanism, a power that a government, an elected government can have? It doesn't mean that because it has that power, it will exercise that power, because each situation is different. You have to consider the Streisand effect, and so forth, backfire, and it does not mean that if you have those powers, you will compel a tech company to take down content at every occasion, because every situation is different. Now, if that was the contours of potential, well, it's the bad word for you, legislation, would that be something that could be considered and would be realistic, particularly since we would agree that in view of the international definition of or the boundaries surrounding freedom of expression, incitement to violence is a red line, and if that red line is crossed, do you think that there is actually some scope to consider in specific instances, not as a broad sweeping power to be activated all the time, for government to actually compel content, a site which hosts content like Facebook, to take down the particular site, to take down a particular post very quickly?
I believe that we already have laws that could compel this sort of takedown of content, whether it's the IMDA regulations, the Broadcasting Act, if it's a falsehood, the Telecommunications Act. If not, we have, the Penal Code, the Sedition Act, the Maintenance of Religious Harmony laws. If it's worried about undue influence of elections, we have legislation related to undue influence of elections as well. We have a lot of laws that, even if they are not specifically about targeting falsehoods, can actually be used in the instances of the harms that we think will be triggered by these falsehoods. So that my position would be that even if we say that there should be takedown, we already have laws that allow that.
Okay, so conceptually, it is not haram to have a policy where you actually have to take down something. Yeah, since we already have those powers.
I would urge that to be like the very last resort. But if we already have those powers, then I'm saying we don't need more, or we don't need to double up or overlap legislation.
I understand. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.